People who work or have worked in retail, what's your I'm about to lose my crap moment you had with a customer? This wasn't an incident that made me angry, but rather, I was going to lose my crap in the sense this interaction made me feel like I was losing my mind. I worked at a weird Starbucks that was drive-thru and walk-up only. There was no indoor seating. There were signs on either side of the walk-up window displaying a menu with a photo of each product that was listed. If I was working at the walk-up window, I couldn't see the menu, even if I leaned out the window as much as I could. One day, a woman came to the store, asked me a question about parking or something, and then ordered. She pointed at the menu and said, "Could I have that one?" "I'm sorry, which drink are you pointing at?" She points again, "That one. I can't see the menu from here. Could you tell me what drink it is?" "That one. I really can't see the menu. Can you tell me what it says?" "That one." What the heck? Maybe she doesn't speak English. No, she asked me something in perfect English earlier. Maybe she's embarrassed to pronounce the drink name wrong. Maybe she's illiterate. What color is it? That one. Do you want a hot or cold drink? That one. Do you want something with coffee or maybe something sweet? That one. Did you want a frappuccino? That one. It went on like this for a while until I gave up and just rang her up for a grande iced caramel macchiato. She seemed perfectly happy with it when I handed it to her. Story 2. Guy slammed a hot water bottle down on the counter and loudly exclaimed, with wife nodding in agreement behind him, that he'd put cold water in it 3 hours ago and it still wasn't hot. Story 3. Former Blockbuster employee here. There was a woman who not only absolutely refused to pay her late fees, which were legitimate, she became so enraged that she threw her stack of tapes at me, hitting me in the face. She then marched around the store and knocked every cassette, DVD, and cover box that she could reach off of the shelves, some with her hands, some by swinging her purse, while shouting obscenities. My manager got on the phone and called the police. When Angry Lady finished trashing the store, she demanded to know which cars out on the parking lot my coworker and I drove. When we refused to say, she spit at us and knocked all of the candy, shelf talkers, etc., off of the counters and began stomping on them. I don't know if it was divine intervention or luck or what, but as Angry Lady was spitting and stomping on the candy, another woman walked into the store. This woman just happened to be my next-door neighbor and a police officer. Officer Neighbor Lady approached Angry Lady and identified herself as a police officer. As she attempted to ask what the problem was, Angry Lady shouted, "Oh yeah? Where's your damn badge, idiot?" Swung her purse at Officer Neighbor Lady, then attempted to flee. Officer Neighbor Lady grabbed Angry Lady before she could reach the door, and a scuffle ensued. In a blink, Officer Neighbor Lady kicked Angry Lady's legs out from under her and she went down like a sack of bricks. I'll never forget the smack sound her face made when it hit the concrete floor. Satisfying. While she held Angry Lady down, Officer Neighbor Lady asked me to go get her purse, out of which she pulled a pair of handcuffs. As the cuffs locked around her wrists, it was then that Angry Lady finally realized what trouble she was in. She began to sob and wail loudly. She promised to make nice, pay her fee, and begged to be let go. 2 uniformed officers arrived and hauled Angry Lady away, screaming and crying like a lunatic. Oh, and the late fee she owed? $12. Story 4. I worked at a department store. I was in charge of the truck and stocking. Usually this included making the department I worked look good, refolding clothes, straightening stacks, sizing the clothing racks, etc. I just finished the juniors department when I turn around and see so many clothes on the floor. There was a teenager picking up folded shirts to look at them, and then she was just throwing them on the ground. It was a particularly bad day for me, as all but 2 of our truck team had called in. I didn't have time for this crap at all. I politely asked her to stop throwing the merchandise on the floor. Fine if she wanted to just set the stuff back onto the tables, but seriously, stop throwing it on the ground. This turned into her proceeding to throw piles of folded clothes on the ground, picking up hanging items and just tossing them. So I asked where her parents were. She refused to answer. So I paged overhead asking for the parent of said teen, I described her clothing and hair, to come to the juniors department, as their daughter had something amazing surprise for them. It wasn't long before a lady walked over with a smile on her face, and then it just fell into the most pissed off, disappointed, disgusted look. She looked at me, then her daughter. The girl tried to say I was the one that did this and was trying to blame her for being bad at my job. Her mom was having none of that. Mom apologized profusely for her daughter's behavior and asked me to show her how we folded the clothes. I tried to tell her not to worry about it. I just wanted her kid to stop, she insisted. Sony showed her the fold we used on shirts and the ones we used on pants. I started picking things up and noticed that the mom had gone to work, telling her daughter how to fold everything. Eventually, she told me I could go do something else. They weren't leaving until her daughter fixed everything. I had other things to do, but I came back later and they were finishing up. Daughter was in tears, saying she was humiliated and that this wasn't her job. Mom just kind of stood there chuckling and said, "It's your job right now. You make a mess, you pick it up. Rules don't stop at our front door. They apply to anywhere you go." Started off as one of the worst experiences, but ended on a high note for me at least. Story 5. Worked at Kmart, sporting goods and toys to be specific, during my high school and early college years. And people would often pull the, I found this product under this tag for a lower price. So does I mean I get it at that price? Well, this one woman did this and would not let up. She had a football that rung up $30 but wanted it at the price of that tag where she found the product for $5, which was a fishing lure. I told her that I cannot price match based on that. What can you price match based on? I tell her. So you won't price match this even though it was sitting there under the wrong tag? No, I cannot. I am sorry. I've had it done before. I've seen it done before, so I know it can be done. Explain again how the price match policy works. We go round and round for about 10 minutes before she pulls the, let me speak to your manager. At this point, I am pretty angry, but reserved. I call my manager, and then leave briefly to go get him and tell him about the customer and their complaint. We walk back to the counter, and she tells him the same things she's been telling me. He says, sorry about that, ma'am, and does a price override and gives it to her for the $5. After payment, the manager walks back. The customer gives me a snarky damn you look and walks away with her purchase. Damn you, Bruce. Damn you, idiot. I was just doing my job, and then I ended up looking like the a-hole. No wonder Kmart failed. Story 6. Had a woman come in and request a large drink in a small cup. I asked her to repeat that. She reiterated she wanted a large drink, but in a small cup. I told her that wasn't possible. This went on and on, her yelling that it wasn't that difficult to understand. I'm trying to tell her that they're different volumes. Eventually, I filled up a large, got a small cup, and dead-eyed her while pouring the large in until it overflowed and went all over the counter. Story 7. Card machine was a bit slower than usual. Man, this is terrible. Me. Yeah, man. You should fix this machine. Me. Yeah, we should. Man. Or replace it. This is a disgrace. Me. Yeah, that's an option too. Man. You should be ashamed. Me. Yeah, I am kind of embarrassed. Man. Other stores don't have this issue. Me. That's because they're better than us. Card payment goes through. Man. This was terrible. Me. Yeah, awful. Sorry for your trouble, sir. Man walks off grumbling to himself. Story 8. Some of our freezers went down and we had to pull stuff out to put it in the storage freezer. We had pallets and trying to get everything done fast. It was a whole ordeal. I was cold, wet, annoyed. This lady in an electric cart that smelled like crap got mad because we were in the way and said, I'm so tired of the laziness in this store. This is bullcrap. And before I could stop myself, I just yelled, well, you smell like crap. I'm so surprised I did not get into trouble. I would completely understand if I did. Story 9. I don't know if this counts as retail, but I was an intern at an aquarium, and while working at the touch tank, a kid swallowed a handful of sand, I told his mother, and she told me that he was only 4. He proceeded to swallow another handful of sand. Story 10. I worked at Target in the clothing department for about 3 years. One night, I was on the closing shift, 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. If you work the closing shift, you spend pretty much the entire shift zoning your assigned area. For me, that meant folding clothes for 5 hours. This particular night, I was assigned the women's area, which is the largest. Around 8 p.m., a woman, probably in her late 40s, approached me. She asked if I could help her find maxi skirts. I happily walked her to where they were. She then asks my opinion on which skirts I like the best. Again, I happily told her. She grabs every single print we offer in the skirt. Then she asks me to come back to the fitting room with her. I obliged. When we get back to the fitting room, she wants me to stand outside the dressing room as she tries the skirts on. She comes out after each one and spends about 5 minutes going back and forth on, does this look good? Is it the right size? I don't like it. Actually, I do like it. She asked me to fetch different sizes for different prints. She also has an attitude while she's doing all of this, telling me that it's my job to help her. This went on until about 9:30. Finally, I think she's done. She now has about 25 skirts in her dressing room. She leaves them all sprawled out in the room and proceeds to tell me that she doesn't want any of them. Then she tells me to have a good night and leaves, leaving her mess behind. It took everything in me to smile back and to say have a good night as well. Also, about 2 years later, my cousin was working at an office and some lady came in there. When my cousin was telling me about the lady and how she was a pain in the ass who kept going back and forth on things and was being so rude, we discovered it was the same lady I had helped before. So apparently, this is the norm for her. Story 11. My story is not about a customer, but about a sales rep. First, I'm a guy, and I used to work at a pet store where smart pets shop. At our store, we would get sales reps to come in and try to sell whatever food they were trying to sell to the customers. One such person was a guy we will name Larry. Larry was an older gentleman, and Larry was handsy. He liked to rub my shoulders and was very inappropriate with our female store manager, Dana, not her real name, and me. The manager was a great manager, and she was the main reason I stayed at that store. She was the nicest lady, but she always got things done. It got so bad with Larry that I would go out of my way not to be near him. One day, I was setting up a puppy sales display when Larry came up behind me and slapped me. He said something creepy like, "Did you like that?" and walked off with a smirk. My first reaction was to go to the manager and ask her to speak with me in her office. The conversation went like this: Hey Dana, I'm not comfortable saying this, but Larry just walked up and slapped me in the rear. Dana looks furious before speaking. Avon, he's done. I'm done with him. I'm calling the company right now. And she did call his company. She also called Larry into her office and began screaming at him about harassment. He never came back to that store. Story 12. When I was a kid, I worked at a fast food restaurant and opened on the weekends. Toward the end of the breakfast rush, some guy comes through with a huge order. We were getting ready for lunch and didn't have anything he wanted already made, so it took us a few minutes to get it together. He starts cussing at me that he is late for church, and I need to hurry the hell up. I explain that I will get his food out as soon as the cooks are done. But that's not good enough for him. I finally reached my limit and told him he should probably leave the house earlier next Sunday. Dude throws hot coffee on me through the drive-thru window. My manager sees this and asks me how much their food is. He then pulls that amount out of the register, throws it at the man, and tells him to get the duck out of his drive-thru. The guy threatens to call the cops, and my boss told him they were already on the way, and he needed to leave if he didn't want to get arrested for assault. I still wonder if he made it to church on time. Story 13, not retail, but a restaurant. I was working as a waitress, and a woman stopped me as I was passing her table. She told me she got a rip in her stockings from one of our chairs. This was according to her 100% my fault, because I did not warn her about our chairs. She asked me if I had any clear nail polish on me or anywhere in the restaurant. I told her that I was sorry, but I did not. This was to her so very strange. How could we not have nail polish in the restaurant? She got very angry, wanted to talk to someone else who could fix her stockings. I got my manager, who also said, sorry, but there is nothing we can do about you stockings. He got told the same as me. And how can we not warn people about the chairs? This went on for about 10 minutes because she just could not believe that I didn't have freaking nail polish in my back pocket. She accepted her stockings fate at last, but I got angry looks from her all night. Story 14. I used to work at Taco Bell. I hated drive-thru, but at the time was the fastest drive-thru cashier. A lady came through and ordered a taco, so I pressed the taco button. Could I get you anything else? No. Any mild hot fire or Diablo sauce? No. Does everything look correct on your screen? Yes. All right, it's going to be $1.39. We'll see you at the window. She gets to the window. Hello, ma'am. It's going to be $1.39. She hands me a $5. I ring her up and give her change. Then when her taco is ready, I give her taco. What the heck is this? A taco. 1 taco? I ordered 8. I'm already thinking. And you thought you would pay $1.39 for 8 tacos? I'm sorry, ma'am, I misheard you. Would you like me to ring you up for the rest of the tacos? Suddenly, in her sheer rage, she can't speak English. Then she regains her English skills. Why would I order a single taco? I'm sorry, ma'am, I misheard you. I'm so sorry. Would you like me to ring you up the rest of the tacos? Ugh, yes, what the heck? Why would I order 1 taco? So I ring her up for 7 more tacos. I can't remember the price. But I turn to her and say, all right, it's going to be however much 7 tacos cost. She looks at me crazy again. What? No, I don't want the tacos. Why would I order a single damn taco? During the entire time I worked at Taco Bell, I was pregnant. At this time, I was probably 7 months. Needless to say, the hormones were getting to me. Our drive-thru window closes if you're not holding it open. So every time I would turn around to speak to the crew, she would scream obscenities at me through the window. I was broken down. I'm sorry, ma'am. I misheard you. I so apologize. She continues to scream obscenities at me. I finally had enough. I was at the point where I was about to tell this lady the duck off. I don't take abuse from anyone, except for at work, in the middle of her screaming at me. I closed the window, turned around, and let out the loudest scream that I could as I burst into tears. Every single person in the restaurant and surrounding area heard that scream. Then I walked to the back room and sat down in uncontrollable tears as my manager went to deal with this crazy idiot. After they got everything worked out, she paid for her stupid 7 tacos. The manager on duty did not play with free food. He told me she changed her tune after hearing me scream and apologized. But they also let me know this lady was notorious for screaming at people in the drive-thru. Luckily, I only worked there 2 more months and never dealt with her personally again, though I did see her have a few more drive-thru meltdowns. Story 15. A girl asked me to get her a Buzz Lightyear toy from a shelf. Done. 5 minutes later, her giddy parents complained that I gave her a boy toy. Personal feelings and rage aside, I tried to de-escalate with, yes, I suppose Buzz is a boy and a toy. Never got written up so fast in my life. Story 16. Retiree in a red convertible called the girl working the headset a very offensive slur because she had a slight accent, though she spoke perfect English. Manager overheard on headset, as she was getting trained by the manager, informed the man that Chick-fil-A doesn't serve rude people, and told him he'd better go somewhere else for his food. Dude, of course, pulled up to the window, which we had closed, and swore at us for a minute before peeling out of the drive-thru. The guy behind him pulled up to the window and said, I know you can't say it, so I will for you. What in a hole. Never been prouder to work at Chick-fil-A. Story 17. I worked in a gas station where we had a notorious customer we referred to as Can Guy. Every month, our station put coupons in the paper for one of free gas. 1 coupon per customer per visit. Can Guy would collect these coupons and then come park his car on the adjacent street and then go post up on one of our pumps and get gas. $1 at a time. He'd pump $1, come in and give us the coupon and go walk out to the sidewalk off the property, and then turn around and do it again for hours. As a pump attendant, we have to approve every pump by pushing a button. So every 3 minutes for hours at a time, we'd be stuck standing at the till, doing the same transaction over and over. The longest I clocked him doing this for was 2.5 hours. Corporate added an addendum to the coupons because of him pulling that crap. Story 18. While working at Lowe's, a guy tried returning an item with no receipt. Turns out that item is only sold by Home Depot, so I told the customer we couldn't give him a store credit. He lost his crap saying he's 100% sure he bought it at a hardware store. Yep, not this one. Wouldn't take no for an answer, so I brought up the item on the computer and showed him it was sold by Home Depot. Then showed him our website, where the item didn't exist. He got pissed and mid-Saturday afternoon yells, "Are you damn stupid?" I wanted to punch him right in his mouth. Story 19. This crazy woman was already a known problem customer in our store. Being one of the managers and a longtime retail veteran, I usually helped her when she came in. One particular day, she came in wanting to return a clearance item she'd bought 3 months ago. I knew she knew our return policy and pointed out the final sale note on her crumpled receipt. The day she'd bought the item in question had not been a fun encounter to begin with. She started screaming that she should be allowed to return it because she has cancer, and I have no idea how hard that was. I nursed my grandfather through cancer, so had some idea, but simply gave her calm reassurances. I did stick to the policy, though. Side note, she'd been a nightmare long before she became ill and probably should have been banned already for some of her antics. After more back and forth, she asks that I let her just exchange it. As she's giving me a headache, I agree. Inform her that the exchanged item would not be able to be returned or exchanged, and reminded her of how much credit she had. She comes back with another item and slams it onto my counter. Lo and behold, there's $1 and change difference between her original item and the new one. She's furious, shouting that she shouldn't have to pay it. And don't I know she's suffering? I firmly insist she coughs up the difference, as that's how exchanges work. She responded by pulling a fistful of change out of her purse and throwing it at my face. A nickel bounced off of my glasses. I saw red, but calmly counted up the change, slid the excess across the counter, which she threw onto the floor, and she stormed out. There had been a young couple in line behind her who promptly approached the counter and asked if I was okay. The head manager took over the register and sent me to the back to calm down. When I came out, she told me that the crazy woman had caused a ruckus at our sister store a few doors down and was now, finally, banned from both stores. I quit the store and took a job in an office a few weeks later. Story 20. Despite the actual dizzying amount of rude, entitled, abusive customers I've dealt with, the Karens threatening my job, the people who thought it was appropriate to grab me roughly by the arm or sleeve when I was walking past to get my attention, every single person who took their bad mood out on me for any number of reasons. Usually it was that one coworker who pushed me to the "I'm about to lose my crap" level, up to and including the time after one incident where I told my store manager point blank to get her away from me, or I'd walk in the middle of Christmas season, with a couple exceptions. Once, when I worked in the airport at a kiosk for Brookstone, a man came through for earbuds. He was rude from the start, in a hurry, and acting like I was wasting his time for ringing him up for a purchase he wanted to make. So I skipped the upsales just to get him away from me. So of course he comes back 10 minutes later with earbuds he broke by ripping them out of the package too roughly. They were, admittedly, crap, and instead of even pretending to be apologetic about it, he throws the package at me. Literally throws it across the counter at me and demands a refund. It's like 6 a.m. and it's too damn early to deal with arguing with this douche about why I don't have to return an item he clearly broke. So I ask him for the card he put it on. And unsurprisingly, he argues with me before having to exert untold amount of energy to just reach into his wallet to give me his stupid card and tosses it to the counter despite my outstretched hand, and I'm coming close to my limit. What seals it is when I ask for his ID, and he loses it at me, arguing that I don't need it. I literally could not process a return without customer information and tell him as such, going back and forth with him until he throws that at me too, and then mutters under his breath, "Damn idiot." I don't know how this was the straw that broke the camel's back when having things thrown at me wasn't, but it was, and I don't think he expected me to call him on it because when I said, "Excuse me," he looked surprised. Before he could say anything, I canceled the return, put his cards and the receipt on top of the box, and slid it back over to him, and said with so much satisfaction, "Sorry, I can't process this return for you, but maybe the local store in your arrival city can." I was the only employee there at the time and a manager, so arguing with me didn't help his case much, especially not with a Metro police podium right next to my store. We were directly behind the TSA check. As much as I wanted to lose my mind at him, the satisfaction of forcing him to either eat the cost and throw the busted earbuds out or hold on to them to try to return later and purchase another pair for his flight made up for a lot. The second is both my favorite story and when I knew I was running out of ducks to give. Same company, but at a mall location before I moved to the airport. It's about 20 minutes past opening time. The mall is mostly dead, and this older woman walks in. Per company policy, I greet her with the customary, "Good morning, how are you today?" She whirls on me immediately, snapping at me. I'd be better if people stopped asking me that damn question. So I looked her dead in the eye, smiled, and just told her, "That's what online shopping is for," before walking away. The outrage on her face before she spun around and stomped out warmed the dying embers of my cold heart the rest of the day. It was better than losing my crap on her ever could be. Story 21. Once, when I was hosting, some absolute fool wanted this specific table on the patio while we were slammed. I explained to him I could get him a table outside, but not that specific one, because there were 5 people waiting in line to sit outside before him. He just tuned me out and stared at the busser wiping the table down. He started walking towards it to go sit down, so I had to stop him and ask him to go back to the waiting area. It's like he had no idea how a line worked. I had to remind him that there were other people waiting in line before him. Then I took the rightful group to the table, and he bitterly says, "Oh, well, huh?" Like he was personally offended. I didn't make 5 other groups wait an extra 30 minutes so he could have his spot first. This was a grown-ass man, 60 years old. I had to go into the walk-in and scream a little bit. Story 22. Working in an ER has basically become like working in retail. I get this at least once a week, me. "Hi, I'm patient. What the heck is going on with me?" Me. "Hello, I'm doc. Patient. Why is no one taking care of me?" Me. "I'm the emergency docto patient. This is the worst hospital ever." Me. "Sir, what brings you in patient. "I've been waiting for 4 hours." Me. "Your chart says you got here 30 minutes ago. Anyways, what's bothering you this morning?" Patient. "You tell me." Me. "The chart says you've had abdominal pain for 3 years. Can you tell me more?" Patient. "I'm not telling you crap." Me. "Okay, well, may I examine you?" Patient. "Don't touch me until you give me pain meds." Me. "Well, I can't help you until I know what's going on." Patient. "Damn you and damn this place." Me. "Okay." Patient. "I'm not talking to anyone until I see the damn doctor." Me. "Okay, well, I'm Maripinum." Patient. "You didn't tell me you were the doctor." Story 23. When I was a cashier at a grocery store, I had a woman come through with WIC checks, and she was trying to use them to get Hawaiian Punch, chocolate milk, and a variety of sugary cereals. I told her those items weren't WIC approved. I knew all about WIC because I was on it myself, being pregnant and having a child under the age of 5, and she snapped off and said they were so WIC approved. I told her to check her booklet and informed her that some of the shelves in the juice and cereal aisle were labeled WIC approved, which was where the proper items were stocked. She told me the Hawaiian Punch had come from a shelf that was labeled WIC approved. There was now a line building behind her. More people than just her were becoming irate, myself included, so I half yelled, "I get WIC. I know exactly what you can and cannot buy with your WIC checks." Oddly, even though I'd raised my voice somewhat, she became as meek as a mouse and paid cash for her sugar fix. Story 24. It wasn't imaginative or very clever to begin with, but I was running a gas station all alone. It was Easter Sunday and I was supposed to be with my family, but the girl who was supposed to relieve me just didn't show up. She would periodically no call, no show with no consequence, but this time she called me and told me she was hungover and would get there when she got there. I called my manager. No answer because it's Easter Sunday. I called the assistant manager. Same thing. I'm supposed to be on my way home to change into my Easter Sunday clothes and heading home to be with my family, but I'm still at this crafty gas station because someone is hungover. I was so mad someone bought a pack of cigarettes and I went to grab them from the open carton and the corner of the cardboard just vanished inside of my thumb. It was a deep wound. Panicked, I wrapped it in several paper towels and went to quickly look in our first aid kit for bandages. We had about 5 of them piled on top of each other. Opened the first one, no bandages. Second one, nothing. Third one, nothing. Fourth one. I finally found a decent bandage. Opened it up and wrapped my thumb. Got back to work because there was a line. Heard an alarm going off in the back room. Ran back there, realized we were out of gas and I had to shut off all the pumps because legally you can't let the gas tanks get to a certain level and still sell gas. I shut the pumps off, which you can imagine pleased everyone who was stopping off of the interstate to get gas before getting back on. Plus, we were still slammed with people wanting to buy cigarettes, cigarillos, and everything else we offered. Also, I had to pee for like 2 hours and couldn't leave behind the counter, or really at all because I was the only one there in this giant store. Suddenly, a customer informs me that the drink machine is broken. If no one knows what a Circle K is, it basically sells itself on its 85-cent drinks. It's all most people come in for. I slap a giant out-of-order sign on the machine and go back to work. A lady, we'll call her Karen because you know where this is going, comes in and demands to know why the gas pumps won't work. This is almost verbatim because I won't forget this until the day I die. Because we're out of gas, ma'am. What do you mean you're out of gas? You're a gas station. This is ridiculous. Well, we're out of gas, ma'am. It's been a long weekend and the truck isn't here. Then why isn't there a sign on every single one of those pumps that says you're out of gas? Because I'm working all alone, and I have a line, ma'am. This is definitely a 100% accurate quote. Millions of people work alone every day. You should be used to it by now. I damn snapped. I lost it. There had been a lot of bullcrap at this job leading up to this day. I was sitting there when I was supposed to be in front of my family eating my metric weight in honey ham and mashed potatoes, with my thumb wrapped up in bloody paper towels. We had no gas. We had no drinks. People were still filing in to take a chunk out of me every 5 minutes because of it. I couldn't fix anything. No one would pick up the phone to help me. Because I'm damn busy, you stupid damn idiot! I screamed. The insult wasn't great. What made it, however, was the group of 4 black guys that were standing in line that looked at each other and gave a stereotypical, "Oh crap," like I'd just hit her with the best diss they'd heard that recess on the school ground. The woman flushed as I came around the corner and she left out of the front door. I turned to the line and said, "I'm going to take a piss. If any of you want to steal anything, damn go for it," and vanished into the bathroom. One quiet, nervous breakdown later, in about 5 minutes, I came out of the bathroom and everyone was still sitting there in line. Everyone was even really nice to me, to be honest. I think they all knew. Despite my use of one of the most vile words ever and halfway yelling at them, I had had a real breakdown there. Everyone politely paid for their items. Things eventually quieted down. And the girl who was going to replace me showed up 2.5 hours late, and I got to go to Easter Sunday and at least enjoy leftovers. I quit a month later for another incident that was quasi-unrelated. Story 25. I was checking out one of my managers after she had punched out. She was using several WIC checks, and I was the only register open. I called for another register when a line formed, but nobody came for whatever reason. So I go on processing the WIC checks and calling again every so often. The woman in line behind my manager starts to become pretty irate and starts berating her, telling her she should know better than to hold up the line, telling her she should let other people go first, telling her she's going to call and complain, etc. My manager's handling it pretty well, but I'm ready to throw the woman out of the store myself. She'd have been asked to leave a long time ago if she talked that way to any other customer. By the end of it, she's going nonstop, just constantly harassing my manager while she's trying to concentrate and get the transaction over with. We finished the transaction without it escalating to a full-on incident, but every time that customer came in after that, she got the stink eye from me. Story 26. Mere minutes ago, some proper R's clown legit asked if he could speak to a manager because he was angry that he had used his overdraft and been charged for it. I work in a bank call center. This specimen stated that what we were doing was illegal, not stated in his terms and conditions, and that he would be going straight to the financial ombudsman. Needless to say, his rambling was cut off by the swift release of the hang-up button. Story 27. I worked in a couple record stores when I was young, so I've got a ton of stories, but one stood out that applies to your question. We had this one guy whose last name was a common vegetable. This dude would come in once every couple weeks and go through our import singles and dance sections. Find a small handful and bring them up to the counter, but no, not to buy them. No, sir. He would first ask for his hold pile that was around 30 discs. He'd then sort through them, pick out a few to purchase, and then have us put all the remaining back on hold. The whole time he'd be doing this, he would not allow you to leave his side. This process took up to 45 minutes. I know, the first question you're thinking is, why even hold them? Put them back out. Well, we tried that. He would come back in, and we'd tell him that we put all the hold back out. He'd crab quite a bit, and then go out into the store and refine them all. Bring them back up and buy a few, and place the rest on hold. If we refused to put them on hold, he'd go and hide them in the store. If we followed him around to make sure he wouldn't hide them, he'd browse until we got busy with another customer and then hide them. We got to the point that we'd nearly ignore him, and we just threw them in a box that we left behind the counter. He'd come in and we'd heavily drop the box on the counter and ask bluntly what he plans to buy today. Nobody wanted to be the unfortunate soul that got stuck with him. It was an exercise in temper management. Story 28. I used to work in a perfume and makeup shop. An old Karen walked in and spent some time in the store and then left with a Chanel lipstick that she didn't pay for. The security guy immediately went after her and told her that this counted as stealing, and if she doesn't pay for it, he would have to call the police. Karen came back shouting and saying some awful crap to the security guard, making a huge scene. The manager came down, and Karen told her that she just wanted to see the color of the lipstick in the daylight. That's why she walked out. Note that it wasn't a tester, it was a product, and the security guard harassed her. At this moment, the manager actually apologized, and told Karen that the guard made a mistake. And that was the moment I lost my crap. And I had to walk out before I say something that gets me fired. Managers like this give Karens power to do their crap. Story 29. Obviously, hypochondriac woman comes to my till wearing surgical gloves with her things in a bag. States she can't give her things to me because of money hands, with a look of absolute disgust before reaching around and scanning her items. She then says she's paying in card and would like cash back, and I explain she needs to put her card in the machine and not use contactless if she would. She says yes, but then still pays via contactless and is then completely shocked. When I explain she can't have cash back unless she makes another transaction with her card in, as I'd explained, she then had a massive go about how I should have told her before. Kinda glad she stormed out of the shop so quickly and I didn't have a chance to properly lose my crap. Story 30. Had one yesterday, actually. I seriously overdid it with my coffee that morning, so I was already super jittery and on edge. First half hour of my understaffed shift, this obviously spoiled brat of a lady walks in to return a charging cable claiming it didn't work because it's off-brand. Just warning you, I don't think any of the cables you sell are going to work for anyone. So already I'm rolling my eyes internally. Where I work, a cash refund sometimes requires an ID, so that we have a way of identifying the person who is doing the refund and making sure they aren't somehow abusing our refund policy. She doesn't have it, so she has to make the 15-second walk to and from her car to get it. And she's acting like it's some major roadblock in her life to have to present it. She comes back and is loudly questioning it like we're going to steal her identity or some crap. For reference on why that's ridiculous, I work at a multi-billion-dollar national pharmacy chain. It would be like if you thought Amazon stored your credit card info so the employees could steal your money. Anyways, all is said and done, and I give her the money she paid, $10 and change. Wasn't that $15? You only gave me $10. She snatched the receipt out of my hand, glares at it to see that no, I didn't steal her $5, glares at me and leaves. The huge amount of caffeine pumping through my body and her combative attitude had me shaking, but I kept my cool and stayed polite and positive while I spoke. But there was definitely some lizard brain slap the crap out of this stupid idiot thoughts popping up throughout. Damn her. I hope no phone she ever owns ever charges again. Story 31. I used to work at a video rental place, living the dream as a 19-year-old, and a customer comes in and asks if we sell movies. I say yes, so she starts walking along the wall of clearly marked rental movies, pointing at titles they want. I start telling them the ones we have in stock for purchase and the ones I will need to order in. They eventually comes up to the front and begins to pay. I tell them the total, a lot more than the listed rental price, and they get really confused as it's a lot more than they were expecting. I'm in the middle of explaining that they are new releases when it hits me. They don't know this is a rental place. I explain this kindly and carefully and that I have had to order them in. At this point, they drop all pretense of niceness, and in front of customers and my shift manager give me a look of pure disdain. You are an idiot, they say. Yeah, well, at least I didn't walk into a video rental place and try to buy the DVDs. They roll their eyes and huff out of there. Wish I could say my clientele only got smarter after that, but that would be a lie. Story 32. I was 15 years old and got a job at a local Safeway, and it was the only grocery store in this small town unless you wanted to drive for half an hour or more and go to Walmart or something. Anyways, there was this one family who would come in, but it was this one guy who couldn't walk, so he used the little scooter things and he had his daughter, I think around 14 years old, to help him. Each week, he would come in, his Sart and his daughters just filled to the brim, and I'd bag it all. Then they would have, I'm assuming his wife and her mother pull up to the side of the store and I'd fill up their car. I didn't really mind this, but they were always very inconsiderate when they would come in. This one time, the car was waiting outside, but his daughter insisted on climbing into those carts for little kids that have the car on the front to make it feel like the kids are driving. She was tall and didn't have an easy time getting in and out, and I was supposed to be going home right now. She sat in the little cart for a good few minutes before coming out and then going outside to hop in the car. It was also annoying when they would open the back and there would just be junk sprawled across the back and they would have like 2 carts worth of groceries they wanted me to put in. I don't want to sound rude, but couldn't they load their own groceries into the car? The daughter and mother were able-bodied and could very much do it themselves, but decided to just sit in their car and let me do it. I've seen like 70-year-old people come in and insist on pushing their cart outside in -20 below weather. I live in Alaska and do it just fine. This family was lazy. The girl also would get Starbucks and leave her half-eaten egg sandwich in the cart and then ask me to hand it to her after she already got into her car. They were just a lazy and rude family, and I'm glad I quit working there. Story 33. Oh, so many. I worked retail from 18 until I was 33. The amount of stories I have could fill a book. From being compared to Joseph Goebbels for running out of M&Ms to nearly being run over by a crazy lady after we finished her oil change. The one that I remember being the most angry and about to lose my job over was when I worked at Home Depot. At the time, I was the department head for electrical and was making my way back to my section after a long, pointless meeting. As I'm passing lumber, I see an older lady with a cart next to some heavy oak plywood panels just staring daggers down the aisle. Home Depot was aware of its lack of help problem and were trying desperately to fix it. So if you say a guest, you had to approach them and ask if they needed anything, especially department heads. So I walk up to this clearly grouchy woman and ask if she needs help with anything. She snaps at me that she's been waiting there for 45 minutes waiting for someone to come down the aisle. First red flag. I apologize and offer to help her with anything she needs. What ensues is me shopping for this lady while she's berating me the entire time. It was like how you would picture a stereotypical rich person talking down to anyone beneath them. The entire time I'm keeping my cool, but every verbal jab is starting to get to me. I can feel my rage building as we go across the entire store. She must have been trying to get everything needed for an addition onto her house, because we went to every single department. I spent a good 2 hours pulling product for this nasty old woman who's treating me like crap. When we finally have everything she needed, we get to the checkout and she insists I ring up everything so she knows who to blame when something is inevitably missing. I scan everything, tell her the total, over $2,000, but I don't remember the exact amount, and she loses her damn mind. I thought I had seen the nastiest this woman could be in our nearly 3 hours together. But crap, I was not prepared. She starts accusing me of jacking up all the prices because she was keeping count in her head, and she's very good at mental math. Insults how I look. Insinuates that my parents didn't love me and that's why I'm working for such a crafty company, and calls me every sort of obscenity you can imagine. By now, the store manager has heard what's going on and comes over. She can see the rage in my eyes and body language and sends me to the break room to cool off. 10 minutes go by and the manager comes back. Lets me know I can clock out and go home, because I guess she got a similar treatment from those hag and knew a small percentage of what I was feeling. I asked her if this stupid crone ended up getting a discount, and she said, "Oh, damn no." I told her for every nasty thing she said going forward, I'm adding an additional $10 onto her recipe. This, of course, only enrages the nasty hag further until she just leaves. The good news was, I got to leave at 7 instead of midnight and drank a 12-pack of beer while spending the night cussing out that rotten idiot to my friends. Retail. Story 34? Worked at a clothing store. A woman tried to return something she clearly worn, washed, and ruined. We told her there was no way we could accept it, and she demanded to speak to the manager. Manager came out, told her the same, and this woman left screaming that she hoped the store would burn down with us in it. Story 35. Years ago, I worked at Chick-fil-A. It was my first real job, so dealing with irate customers took some getting used to. It was even worse, since we had the reputation of being the nicest fast food employees and all that jazz. Anyways, one day I'm working the drive-thru and a lady comes through and orders a spicy chicken sandwich. All right, I read it back to her. She said it was fine. I read it back to her again when she got to the window. Again, she confirmed that she ordered a spicy chicken sandwich. I think I even said it one more time when I handed her the food. She drives off and parks in the parking lot, which, if you worked at our chic filet, was a oh crap moment. The lady comes up to our front window, we were a drive-thru only CFA, and begins to scream about how she hadn't ordered a spicy sandwich. I told my manager that she did, but whatever. The kicker was that she was pregnant and accused me of trying to hit her baby as if a spicy sandwich would do that. We just gave her a free regular sandwich, and she went on her way. Finally, no 2 weeks later, I walk into work, and one of my coworkers asked me about it and what the woman was driving, looked like, etc. Turns out she had come through before I started my shift and did the whole thing again, right down to the, "Are you trying to hit my baby?" line. It was then and there that I knew I wanted to be nowhere near customer service the rest of my life. Story 36. Not me, but my fiance. She recently became a barista and had this notoriously rude regular customer come in and order some complicated drink. My fiancé asked her a couple clarifying questions that I guess the customer didn't think she should have to answer. And I guess it pissed this customer off. Turns out customer knew one of the managers and texted him to complain. My fiancé then almost got written up. Whatever that means, apparently, in a separate incident with a different employee, this same customer ordered a couple drinks, realized she didn't have her wallet, and then, straight up, asked if she could just take the drinks for free. Employee didn't let her, and so the customer again called one of the managers. Story 37. I worked with a guy who punched a customer once. He was standing at the register, and a customer came in to return a set of tools and literally threw the set down on the counter, causing screwdrivers and tools to fly across the counter and hitting the employee. Story 38. I worked in a grocery store during college. Old people damn love them some grocery stores. They come in every day. They often don't buy anything. I think they like the free AC when it's hot, but sometimes they just need to be out and get some social interaction. No big deal, unless they're horrible people, like the one you're about to hear about. I'm working part-time, 12 hours a week while going to college full-time. The store I worked was tiny and often rearranged shelves to make room for new products. So even full-timers rarely knew how to find more than 80% of the items we sold. I get in for a shift after several days off, and an old lady I haven't encountered before demands to know what's going to be put on an end cap that's currently empty. I tell her I don't know, but look at the sheet taped to it and read it and tell her what it will be. She yells at me that I should know what's going to be there because I work at the store. Then she demands to know what the price will be when the sale starts. Not being psychic, I tell her, I don't know. It's a secret until the sale starts and we update the price tags. Again, she yells at me. I should know, and it's my job. A short time later, she asks me a question looking for round 3. I ignore her and walk into the back room because the door was closed. One of my coworkers sees this and scolds me. He's a good guy, also working part-time while going to school, and I quickly tell him she doesn't really need help. She just wants to yell at someone. He shakes his head and goes out the door to help her. She chews him out for 15 minutes, and I give him a, "Sorry, I warned you," look when I pass by them again. Later, it's close to the end of the shift, and she's looking for Brussels sprouts. And she asks me for help, and I, of course, go to the frozen veggies aisle to help her look. It turns out we don't carry Brussels sprouts, however, as we are a very small store and they aren't popular enough. So she starts yelling at me again, saying we should carry them, and then asks me what she's supposed to do. A light bulb goes off. "Well, ma'am, I'm very sorry we don't carry Brussels sprouts. I think they may carry them at competing store down the road because they are a larger store. I'm sorry I can't be of more help," and I walk away. 10 minutes later, she's screaming at my boss, who walks away from her chuckling but tells me I shouldn't suggest customers go to other stores again. Story 39. I was a cashier at Kmart way back in the early 90s. Through high school, I'd made good money babysitting. So this was my first job outside of that. I was 18, just starting college. I'd only been working a few months. This woman comes through my line buying some kind of diabetes supplies. She had a coupon. I was stunned by how expensive this stuff was, even with the coupon, having never had to deal with it. I made some kind of comment about, "Wow, this stuff is pricey, even with the coupon." She says, "What did you say to me?" I kind of laughed and repeated what I'd said. She says, "That's not what you said. I heard you. Get a manager up here now." I was so confused. I had no idea what she was angry about or what she thought I'd said. I call my manager up and he asks what the problem is. The woman goes into a rant about how rude I am and starts listing all these horrible things I just said to her. I supposedly called her names. I couldn't believe a grown-ass adult could stand there just lying through her teeth. I tried to defend myself, but my manager shut me down. He told me to finish the transaction, and he told the woman he'd deal with it. He then shut my line down, ushering the people in line to a different cashier. That woman, it's been decades, and I still see red when I think of her. By this point, I was crying. I cry when I'm angry. And she just stood there with this self-satisfied smirk. When she'd left, my manager took me aside and told me to never interrupt the customer and try to defend myself. He said he knew she was lying, but I'm not to contradict the customer. He then told me to go take a break since I was still worked up. I'd barely made it to the break room before he paged me to come back to the floor because the lines were too long. Asshat. I wish I'd known how to stick up for myself back then. But there is a happy ending, sort of. The woman paid with a check. She treated me like crap and then handed me her identity, phone number, and address. It was a small town. Her house might have been toilet papered a few times over the next couple of years. Maybe not the most mature way to handle it, but I was young, and it made me feel better. Story 40. Worked part-time retail whilst at university. One night we'd closed the shop, but there was still a customer shopping round, so we went and asked her if she could leave as it was now about 10 minutes after close, and she had shown no intent of buying anything. The woman then proceeded to look down her nose at all of us and states that she's a doctor, and so she should be allowed to continue. Frankly, I don't really care what a person's job is as it doesn't entitle them to crap. And looking down on every member of staff in the store when most of us were all students studying pretty solid degrees. She definitely needed some basic skills and respect more than she needed some new clothes. Story 41, Karen. I'd like to get my money back for this lotion. It made my eyes burn. Alert. I'm sorry, ma'am. We don't issue refunds for open products. However, you may exchange it for another. Karen. No, I'd like my money back. Alert. I'm sorry, but I can't do that. This policy is stated on the back of the receipt I gave you when you purchased it. Karen. I'd like to speak to a manager. Alert. I am the manager. Karen. This is extortion. Story 42. I'd worked at Canadian Tire for 5 years, and over the years I had many near-breaking points, but it was during my last year that I finally cracked on one old guy. Basically, I was passing by the front on my way back to my department when this older guy comes through the front doors and asks me a question about a product unrelated to my department. Fair inquiry. I tell the guy I'm going to set him up with someone from that department, to which he starts giving me crap. No, maybe he'd have gotten away with it when I was 17 when I started there, but I'm 23 now. Not this time, mother ducker. He starts up. I pull my earpiece away from my ear because I intended to speak uninterrupted. Guy kicks off with, "You should know about your products." And my reply is, stop, 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 until he stops and I continued. This store is divided by departments because there is too much in this building for one person to be bothered to learn all of for $14. He challenges me with some statement about being an expert, and I shut it down with, if I had any expert knowledge, I wouldn't be serving this dump or you. Go find your own help. Asked me for my manager's name. Gave him my manager's name and next shift schedule on a red and yellow slip of paper. So many people walk into retail establishments expecting top-notch information. Get out from under that rock and smell the roses. In an industry that pays between $11 and $14, you will find no experts because they're off getting paid for their knowledge. And any experts that are working in retail are there because they've either had a lot of exposure to it or they're looking to get paid for it, but nobody is there with that expertise seriously. Don't kid yourself. Can I get a damn retail or what? Story 43. Worked at a major water park. This particular day, I was in the ticket booth. Guy comes to the window to buy a couple of season passes. Total was just about $250. Guy begins to idiot about how expensive it is as he pulls 3 100 bills out of his wallet. I give him the old, I'm sorry, sir, yada yada. All that crap as I finish the transaction. Now, I don't know about how anywhere else's work, but on ours, if they were paying, you could either type in the amount paid, or there were buttons on the screen for each denomination of bill, and you just pushed those. I pushed the $100 button 3 times and give him his change. He looks at the receipt and gets pissed off. You overcharged me. I ask him what happened, and he slaps the receipt down in front of me. You damn tried to rip me off. Look, it says $150 right there. I was confused, so I look at the receipt, and sure enough, it does. What I didn't know until just then is that when you use the buttons, it breaks it down on the receipt. So explain him. I put on my best CS voice. Okay, sir. I see what you're talking about, and I understand your confusion. There isn't no damn confusion. You tried to overcharge me. I tried to show him the receipt and the breakdown, but all he saw was the $150. He began to yell louder and eventually turned toward the other people in line. Y'all don't want to be in this guy's line since he can't do his damn job right. I grab the phone and call my supervisor, who fortunately is a damn badass and is like 30 feet away, and she comes and handles him. I'm pretty sure I told her, can you please come get this guy before I lose my cool? I was nearly in tears because I was so angry and trying so hard not to let this idiot get to me. Soup takes him, and the next person steps up, looks kind of sheepishly at me. With my voice shaking, I asked her, can you please give me just 1 second? I need to collect myself. She told me I was fine, and I could have hugged her right then. Story 44. I work as a customer service agent for Amazon. It's more shocking to go a day without a customer freakout. One of the newest reasons for a freakout I got recently, their package was being shipped by USPS. There was a scan on the tracking number that said something along the lines of, as per the agreement between the customer and carrier, this package has been redirected to a new address. Then there's about 10 minutes of yelling about how this is our fault. She set it to this address because that's where she wanted it delivered, that we did something, that we're going to fix it, etc. Then the magic words come out of her mouth, which I had been trying to tell her the whole time but kept getting cut off to get yelled at. Well, I have my mail forwarded to another address, but that shouldn't happen with packages. Story 45. I work at a small-town bank. Everyone knows everyone. I moved here recently with my fiancé. It's his hometown. I had a customer come up to me asking if he could cash a check. Our policy is to only cash not on us checks if they have an account. So I ask, sir, do you have an account with us? He flips his crap telling me that I should look it up and do my damn job. Everyone knows him. He's a member of this community. I cover my name tag and ask, sir, what is my name? He huffs and says he didn't know. I said, exactly. If you don't know who I am, how do you expect me to know who you are? Also, I will need to see your ID because I don't know who you are. He walked to the next teller in line who knew him and cashed his check. Good news is, he never comes to my line and waits for someone else, which is fine with me. Story 46. I had worked in retail for approximately a year before this, but had recently been promoted to shift manager. I was working in a women's clothing store, and it was just after the holidays. We had seen lots of returns and exchanges at that point, and I was fairly confident in my ability to handle them. We had a man come in with a gift card he had purchased for his wife for Christmas. In fact, I was the one who had rung him up for the gift card. He made a request that I hadn't yet encountered. He wanted to return the gift card. I explained that I was unsure how to process his request, and I needed to contact my store manager for directions. He waited as I called her, but she didn't answer. I left a voicemail and explained to him that I was going to try to contact my district manager. He started throwing around terms like breach of contract and something about the situation being fraudulent. I emphasized that I was attempting to get his money back, but I'd never processed a transaction like this before and needed direction. When I called my district manager, she didn't answer. At this point, I wasn't sure how to proceed and decided to contact other stores in the hope that somebody would know how to fix this situation. As I'm calling other stores, he gets on his phone as well. I'm trying to maintain my cool and also help him, but I was getting flustered. Suddenly, the other line rings. I thought it was finally somebody calling me back. I answer with our greeting. The lady on the other line informs me that she's calling from customer service regarding a complaint she had received from a gentleman who wanted to return a gift card. At this point, I'm barely holding back tears. I've been doing the best I could to help him, and he's complaining. I tell her what is going on and ask if she's able to help. She wasn't able to, since she isn't trained on our systems. I broke down and started crying as a grown man starts yelling at me over a gift card. Eventually, my DM called back and we fixed the transaction. But to date, that was my worst retail experience. Story 47, work as a bartender and nearly lost my crap with a customer last night. He was in with a booking and they had the upstairs bar to themselves and I was serving them, and one of them had far too many and ordered 2 drinks. I would have cut him off, but I didn't realize how drunk he was until after he ordered. He starts wandering off, asking his friends what drinks they want, and other people start coming up wanting to order. So I tell him he needs to pay now because other people are waiting. He says he'll be 2 seconds and keeps asking his friends if they want drinks. This happens 4 times and I get impatient, so I simply tell him he needs to pay for the drinks right now. Then he can't find his wallet. Story 48, not a customer, but a thief. Worked at a video store. This lady would come in usually later at night and she would follow around customers like she was with them so we wouldn't catch on. She was 40 cougar and the guys wouldn't say anything. Guy came to the till, and she followed him. As he was paying, she left and beeped he was a regular. So I believed him when he was like, never seen that woman in my life. She came in again this time with her actual BF. Others have seen the 2 shoplift before. This guy was like 6 feet 3 inches, big-ass black ponytail. I noticed her too late. She already had product. We were actually busy this time, so I was little more bold. I stood by the door and eyeballed them. She grabbed a nearby DVD and asked if it was any good. I took it in my hand and said I hadn't seen it. They were like, oh, okay, we're gonna go. They get closer to the door and beep. I grab the door handle. My arm is between them and the door now, and ask, why are you beeping? I was too far for the beeper to go off on the DVD I was holding, or else I would have already. And she says, well, it's the DVD you're holding. I chuck it into the till area, and it's still beeping, and say, no, it's not. If I see your faces in here again, I'm calling the cops. Never saw them again. Story 49. Worked at a print novelty shop over summer holidays. This old woman wanted to scan about 50 photos. I told her no problem and gave her a quote. She was so shocked and told me that last time it was cheaper. I told her that was true, but our rapid scanner was broken, and we would have to scan using the flatbed on the printers, which would take more time equal sign costing more. She was so angry. She completely berated me and scolded me as if I was a 5-year-old child. Don't just say it's broken. Tell me what you're doing to fix it and call me ma'am. You are so disrespectful. I was a regular and I'm never coming back here again. You lost a loyal customer. Obviously, I didn't care. Well, I did see her again a few more times after that anyways, of course. Story 50. As a deli clerk, one thing you figure out early on is that people come to the counter with no idea about what they want or how much stuff actually weighs. Thankfully, we only have lunch meats and cheeses, no hot bar. The week before last, I was given the job of running the case for the midday shift. Everything is going relatively smoothly for a Thursday morning, until one word wonder steps up to the counter. Me, what can I get for you? One word wonder, yes. Stares at case. Me, if you need a minute, I'll be right over here. Points to slicer 2 feet away from case. One word wonder, turkey me, so you want store brand or disuse? One word wonder, turkey. Me, what kind of turkey are you looking for? Do you like right out of the oven flavor? A little sweet or more savory? One word wonder, turkey. I stand there in awkward silence for a moment while she continues to stare at the case. Me, let me get a sample for you. Do you like pepper? This is our best seller. One word wonder, 1 pound me. I weigh and bag her turkey. Anything else for you today? One word wonder, ham. Now she's staring at me and not saying anything. Me, what kind of ham are you looking for? Do you like right out of the oven flavor? Or do you prefer a sweet or more savory ham? One word wonder, ham. By this point, I'm about ready to bag up a pound of everything we have and drop it in her cart. Me, we have several kinds of ham here. Which one would you like today? One word wonder, ham. Me, new strategy. Our most popular flavors are the honey, off the bone, and cherrywood. Which of those sounds good? One word wonder, ham, 1 pound. Me, 1 pound of honey ham coming up. I bag it up and set it on the counter. One word wonder, snatches bag off counter. Why did you have to make this so difficult? Marches off. Story 51. I worked at Walmart, and this customer came in and realized I played video games. So he started talking to me about this new MMO that was supposed to be a WoW killer, Terra, if I remember correctly. And of course, it never overtook WoW. He blabbed on about it for at least an hour, and if someone has ever talked to you about an MO that you don't play, you'll know how utterly uninteresting it is to listen to. I didn't play MOs, so it was especially uninteresting to me, and he was getting super in-depth with all the classes, questing systems, world, abilities, etc. Just Utter gobbledygook to someone that didn't play MOs. And again, it went on for like an hour. No end in sight. I was finally at my wit's end, so I say as politely as I can, "All right, man, well, it's been fun, but I should probably get back to customers now." He balks and says, "But I am a customer." My heart sank because I knew I was stuck. I was like a prisoner in some super nerdy prison. I had to listen to him for another half hour, just blather nonsense about this game. At the end, he tried to convince me to play it with him. I was clearly disinterested. At this point, I could no longer feign any interest. He got offended and left. I went on an immediate smoke break. Story 52. Does it count if I kind of lost my crap? I check out this lady, middle-aged, didn't strike me as a Karen though, and ask if she wants her receipt. She says that she doesn't, but also she doesn't want me to have it because she thinks I will return the items and steal her money. I am confused but understanding at first because I have had coworkers screw people before. I say something along the lines of, "If you take this and toss it, I won't be able to do anything with it." This solution wasn't good enough. 10 minutes later, 2 managers, a pharmacist and I are arguing with this lady, trying to get her to take her receipt and leave. She thinks we are all in on it, so I decided that I have had enough. I tear the receipt into little pieces aside from the barcode used to scan for returns, separate them into piles, and place them in trash cans throughout the store. I return to my desk, grab the barcode, explain the purpose of it to the now somewhat terrified customer, and eat it in front of her and my equally scared, surprised managers. She goes, "Well, that settles that," and hurries out of the store. I did all this with one eye twitching, but a calm and serene expression otherwise. Unsurprisingly, I don't think she ever came back. Story 53. Years and years ago, I worked as a waiter in an upscale restaurant. I always provided the same service, attentive and non-intrusive. I was leaving this job on this particular night as I had found another job. Most of the night went smoothly until one couple, no matter what I did, seemed to be pleased. The salad came too late, there wasn't enough dressing, the wine was off. You name it, they complained. I worked to fix everything, despite little was wrong, and was apologetic as I always was when the situation warranted. When they were finished and I provided their check, they told me, "You know, you have to be the rudest waiter we have ever encountered." Did I mention this was my last night here? And I replied, "Like I give a duck, blow it out." I left my shift a bit earlier that night, but felt on top of the world. Story 54. So many I can't even point one out, from "Go get me a insert out of stock product here, now, right now, or I'll make you lose your job," to "Didn't you hear what I said? Are you dumb or deaf?" Bonus round. "Check out that guy's ass." I would tap that, and I'm like, thanks, I guess. But if you tap my ass, I'll tap your face. Story 55. I was a merchandiser for a beverage distributor for years. Around the holidays, we would get ungodly orders in because our salespeople would use that excuse to pad out their numbers and make a lot of money on commission. So it's around New Year's or some such, and I've got loads and loads of beer in the back room of this Safeway that I have to put away. This is my second of 3 stores for the day, and I've already worked 11 hours at this point. I'm exhausted, I'm hungry, and I'm pissed off. I'm building a display of 30 packs of Corona when this old man comes up behind me and starts watching. Sometimes customers like to gawk, but I'm not in the damn mood to get stared at. But this guy, probably in his 70s, is just watching me and starts making comments. I don't even remember what they were, just making stupid remarks and witty little quips at my expense. And that was it. I stopped what I was doing and just stood there, my back to him, telling myself over and over not to turn around and clop this old idiot in the mouth, but I can feel my hand clenching into a fist. And that's when I hear another voice pop in. "Hey, haha, that's right, sir. Can I help you find anything? No? All right, why don't you check out our product over here for a bit?" I stand there a minute more and get my crap together before turning and seeing one of the salesmen for our rival company. He's led the old guy away from me, schmoozed him a little and sent him on his way. He comes back and asks how I'm holding up. I say fine and keep working. He stands there for a few seconds and asks, "Were you going to punch that old dude?" "Yep. Yeah, thought so." He just laughs, tells me to take a breather, and goes about his business. I ended up quitting with my company and going to work for them a little later. Liked it a lot better. Story 56? I worked retail for the first few years in college. After the holidays, one year, I had 2 girls, probably about 18 years old, come in to return a couple items they got for Christmas. I explained to them that since they didn't have the credit card, I could only give them store credit, and if they wanted the money back, to hold off and bring the items back with the card used to buy said items. They choose the store credit route. Couple hours later, we're getting ready to close. I'm working through the last line of customers. I notice the girls are back and at the end of the line. This time with an older man I assumed was their dad. So the whole time I'm working through this line of customers, the dad's making comments about how long it's taking and staring at me the whole time. Finally, they get to the front, and the first thing he says is, "I've got a funny story for you," and throws the gift card that I gave his daughters earlier that day at me. Him, "How the heck did 2 girls come in to return something and get store credit?" Me, Well, sir, I explained to them they needed the card used on the purchase for a full refund. Him, it's my card, give me my damn money. Me, great. Do you have the card with you? Him, no, I don't. What the heck does it matter? So I explained to him in simpler terms than I explained to his daughters, how returning items without the original card works, all through which he's calling me a git, lazy, rude, etc. He thought it was crazy and that we were the only store to do this. Common practice for every store in our area just about. He then asks for a manager, and my manager, after seeing and hearing the whole thing, explained to him real slowly how it worked, almost word for word what I explained earlier, while I stood there with my crap-eating grin, just staring at him. Story 57. I was handed an actual bag of warm, fresh dog crap by a customer at the pet supply store I worked at. I've got to go meet my wife and back to talk about dog's food. Can you handle this? He got excited, hands me a plastic baggie full with a paper towel-wrapped wad of dog poop. He barely smeared off the floor right in front of the registers. The line is about 10 people deep in each register, so neither I nor my coworker at the cash wrap has time to clean the mess or go dump the bag of refuse in the doggy doo disposal out front on the lawn patch we have specifically for this goddamn issue. We would have liked to, but my boss was an absolute stickler, as was corporate, for helping at the register first above all else. We were short-staffed, and it was during the holidays, so aside from warning people not to step on the streaks, we had no choice but to ring people up while the stench grew from the bag that was sitting on the floor in the corner of the cash wrap. It reeked of corn-dotted, milk-curdled crap during high noon while our store was without blinds. Well, between blinds as we were remodeling. And so the sun beating in through the windows was not helping mask anything. When I finally got a break in customers, who were all pulling faces and looking at me like it was either me or at least my fault, I ran that bag outside faster than any fat girl has ever moved before, and I will never forget that dumb crap's face or the smell of that godforsaken parcel of molten dog droppings. It was nearly a decade ago, and I still remember it all. Story 58. Thankfully, I don't work retail, food anymore, but I remember that my super immature go-to for quite a while was customer yells about their issues with something. Bazzitti stands there, stone-faced. Customer continues to yell about their issues. Bazzitti stands there stoically. Customer rants even more about their issues. Bazzitti stands there, expressionless. Customer stops yelling, confused because they are not getting a reaction. Me, sarcastically, are you done? Story 59. While attending college, I used to work at Pizza Hut as a cook. I got this one order that got me banned from leaving the kitchen. I made the pizza, etc. Waitress came back and said she forgot they wanted tomatoes. So I remade it with tomatoes. No biggie. Waitress comes back and says they meant uncooked tomatoes. So I had to remake it and then add fresh tomatoes to it. Now I'm starting to fall behind on other orders. Waitress comes back and says that they want whole wheat crust, not ridge. At this point, I'm getting really frustrated, but I remake the pizza for the 1,000th time. Thinking, this finally must be it. Nope. Waitress comes back and says they want whole wheat flat. I take the damn pizza and bring it to the table and put it down and say, "Eat your damn pizza." The lady says, "You can't talk to me like that. I'm the customer. You're just a cook." I walk away and say, "Idiot, just eat the pizza." My manager, one of my best friends, tells me I can't leave the kitchen anymore. Story 60. I was 17. And on this particular night, I was the only person covering a huge section of the floor at the clothing store I worked at. I had completely refolded and stacked a huge table of shirts, like 15 shirts per stack, probably 15 shirts on the whole table. And they had to be absolutely perfectly folded. The table was a disaster, literally in complete disarray because people are horrible. Anyway, it took me a long time, but I finally got it all sorted out. It's 10 minutes to closing, so I'm thinking, okay, this is great. It probably won't get horribly messed up again. In comes frantic lady. Several times a week, this lady showed up 10 minutes to closing, frantically needing shirts and pants, always talking into her Bluetooth earpiece that you couldn't see through her crazy hair. Numerous times I thought she was talking to me, so I responded and she snapped at me that she was on the phone. Anyway, I saw her come in, but I stepped into the fitting room for like 3 minutes to get a rack of go-backs. And I come out to find she has demolished the table I just folded. Like, went to every shirt, grabbed the one on the bottom and yanked it up and out, sending all the shirts above it toppling into piles. I just stood there, jaw on the floor, eyes wide watching her. She sees my face and scurries away. She only bought like one thing in the end. I oscillated between wanting to cry and seething rage. She was so rude. I still feel enraged when I think about it. Story 61. Guy marches in, pointing at me from a distance and declares loudly, You're in trouble. You're the one who scammed me." I don't smile or act in any way other than the barest politeness, because that's just a rude way to begin talking to someone. His problem? He was on an old version of what we offer and now wanted X, which would cost extra. So when I spoke to him several weeks ago, I had suggested adjusting his monthly bill to a new version, which is cheaper each month and includes X for free. When he got the email confirming his decision, he and I, quote, skim read it and saw it said Y, so I assume you haven't given me X like you promised. I showed him the emailed, printed, and texted confirmations of the terms he agreed to, which state, in black and damn white, I gave him X. Y was the name of something else he was getting as standard, which had been explained in great detail at the time and was written clearly in all the paperwork. He repeated that he didn't read it properly, and because he wasn't listening when I said all that term stuff, it was my fault that he was so upset. This mef stands up, tells me, "Well done then, girl," and saunters out like him calling me an idiot woman scam artist and a liar who's trying to cover up her mistake was the best part of his day. He came back an hour later to ask that nice girl about my bills. And I told my manager I was busy scamming some other banana head and to make him call customer services if he wanted someone to be rude to. Story 62. Managed a swanky theater, so we got a lot of ridiculous customer service requests. This couple comes to CS with an app on one of their phones that measures decibels, complaining that the volume was too high and they were going to be deaf. First off, nobody else was complaining. We're not going to adjust something that affects everyone's experience for one person. Second, the volume in the HD or IMAX or whatever special theater they were in is set by that company. If we change the volume during the previews, it will reset itself to original volume for the movie. They didn't want to listen to reasonable explanations and the usual, "Oh, I'm so sorry" groveling expected from us. And I was having a hell of a day, so I unleashed the crazy manager on them. You know the type of girl who wears Cookie Monster pants to school? It was that girl. Story 63. Had a lady during a busy period. I accidentally gave her the wrong change by exactly 21 pens. I'd already shut the register, and to open it again, I'd need a manager who was already really busy. She starts going on about her 21 pens, so I'm like, fine, I can do it by card without the manager, is that okay? She starts having a meltdown about how disrespectful I was and how this store was awful, etc. So I go get the manager who is like, "You seriously are throwing a meltdown over 21 pens? Fine, whatever." The lady says she wants to report me and demands I get fired on the spot. The manager just says no, that's not happening. She made a simple mistake. The lady gets even crappier. Manager gets the till open and gives her 21 pens. And this lady, still holding up the queue and having a get fit, looks at me in disgust, then drops the 21 pens straight into our charity bucket by the till, then walks away. I had to take a break just at the sheer ridiculousness of it all. Another time, a customer got so mad because they dropped their milkshake on the floor, and I said I couldn't give them a new one that she threw a muffin at my head and then a handful of chips. But that was more funny than horrendous. Story 64. Guy came in info desk with a kind of a chainsaw that's on a stick, used for cutting branches, etc., that he had bought earlier that day. His attitude was bigger than the store. His wife was holding him from his arm and was nodding with anything he was saying, and literally had a look of disgust on her face when she slapped the receipt on the desk. I kept hearing him for about 10 minutes on how we sell garbage, how we are incompetent to sell him something that would meet his needs, that we are useless, and that we should all go home. After he finished, I looked him dead in the eyes, turned the chain of the chainsaw in the right direction, and told him he had put it in the wrong direction. He picked the tool and left without saying anything. In the list of most wasted 10 mins of my life, and a fast one, a guy came wanting to buy a water pump. When I told him that we do not have anything that matched his needs, wanted a sewage one, we had only for dirty water, he got angry and started swearing and told me I wasn't helping him at all. I explained that he can buy one, but he loses the warranty, and the store can't be held liable, and that's the attitude. I ask for the head height and the length of the pipe, and he goes from here to there, pointing vaguely. Yeah, I give up, called a supervisor to help him decide. 3 minutes in, and I heard the supervisor shouting, "Some people still can't decide if they are annoying or amusing in their own way." Story 65. I had been working at Office Depot for about 4 years, so I could cover any department at this point. I was covering the copy department, and this lady wanted some pictures from her phone printed. She wanted some pictures of her grandson printed and is being very rude. This is normally done at a DIY station, but she's treating me like her slave, ordering me to do it. Well, as I navigate the folder she ordered me to, all these pictures of bananas pop up. And I'm not talking about one or two. It's dozens of different junk that dudes have obviously been sexting her. The monitor was on a rotating platform, so I spin and ask her with a straight face, "Is this your grandson?" She turned bright red and started stuttering as she tried to click on the screen. I was about to lose my crap prior to finding her junk pick folder, but after that, I couldn't wipe my grin of my face. She decided to use the DIY station after that. Story 66. At Best Buy, a lady wanted to check if a charger would work on her phone. She wouldn't tell me or show me like it was some big secret. She wanted to open the packages to see the connector to see if it would fit. I told her to just tell me the name of the phone she has. She says it's by Sprint. I say, "Okay, Nokia, Samsung, Apple, what phone?" She pulls out a razor blade and starts cutting them open. I just asked her, Okay, so you're going to pay for those that you're opening, right? Since you know you're damaging the packages? She called me an idiot and tried to walk away, so I got mad and just followed her out to her car and wrote down her plate number. She screamed at me, "What are you doing?" I told her that if she doesn't want to pay for the items, I'll be handing this information over to the police when we write up the damage report. She, extremely red-faced, walked back in the store screaming for a manager. I grabbed one, gave him the 4 phone chargers she opened, and said she should be charged for these since she opened them with a blade. He looked at me, looked at her, and asked her how she wanted to pay for them. Roughly $100 as with tax. She kept yelling at me from across the entrance that I was a piece of crap, and she hopes I'm happy. I didn't lose it, but I said something like, "Once she leaves, I will be happy." I got a verbal warning since I shouldn't have followed her out to her car. Left there almost 15 years ago, and I'm so happy to not work there anymore. Story 67. Worked at a pickup, drop-off site for a dry cleaner. Pretty easy gig in high school. Did my homework in the back, rang customers up, tagged clothes, went back to movies or homework. Old guy comes in and needs a pair of shorts rushed. Told him it'd be an extra couple bucks as they've already picked up clothes and it'd be a special trip to get it to the store that actually cleans. He says he's never been up charges for it before. Told him sorry. That's what the owner does for rush cleanings. He lost his crap. This was about 10 years ago, so I forget the details, but I remember getting pissed off that he berated me over and over. I was a cashier and a teenager. I don't have any control over that bees. Best part was, he grabbed his shorts, left, and tried to slam the glass door. Like no doubt, over-exaggerates the slamming movements and grunts trying to. Then he walked off. Funny thing is, it has one of those pressure bars at the top to keep it from doing so. As soon as it closed, I laughed my ass off and he flipped me off from his car and lost his crap. I locked the doors, called my boss to let her know, while he yelled outside the store and knocked. He's now banned from the store. Story 68. Woman came in around 9 p.m. in the middle of summer wearing a fur coat and holding 2 alternators, screaming and yelling. She threw one at my coworker and slammed the other one to the ground when we wouldn't give her money back on old car parts. Story 69. Delivered pizza for a while. I show up on time. Not really sure where this guy's apartment is. I get out of the car to look around and he's already barking orders at me when I haven't even spotted him yet. Come around the back. What the duck did I say on the note? The thought of opening the box and eating his pizza is already crossing my mind. So I drive around to the back and again, he's already shouting orders from his apartment door before I even step out of my car. Put a little pep in your step. I have a 2-year-old to feed. Now I'm thinking about turning his pizza sideways and hitting him in the face with it. He pays for the pizza and doesn't have change for $20. So now I have to give him change. As I'm counting money, he starts insulting me again. What? Can't do basic math? You some kind of retard? Story 70. Help someone get their stuff out of a locker because it was stuck. The family proceeded to say thank you to me for helping them, and I replied with a "no problem, guys." They look back at me and say, "You should say you're welcome." Taken aback, I decide to walk away from it. People trip me out. Story 71. I worked in the warehouse at a very popular hunting, fishing, camping, and outdoor activity chain that's known for being very large with large fish tank inside. We had this huge git of a dude in his 50s who wanted a very specific duck lure. We didn't have it in the floor because it was so randomly specific, so I was sent to the back to look for it with a girl from hunting. It turned out we didn't have it in the warehouse, but instead it was in one of our shipping containers behind the store. So me and the girl go to look for it and open the shipping. The container to be greeted with large boxes, wall to wall, all the way to the back. Realizing that the duck lure must be in the back, this poor girl jumped up and Army crawled across the tops of the boxes all the way to the back of this shipping container and threw the lure over the boxes before crawling back. All of this was in the middle of a winter snowstorm next to a highway. We finally get the lure, lock everything up, and head back only to find the customer had left. Story 72. About a year ago, the store I manage had the floors re-waxed overnight. Typical janitorial work that usually results in a slight curing smell for a few hours into the business day. This particular service, a woman came in and told one of my staff we had a gas leak and she would know because she used to be an OSHA inspector. Employee doesn't get paid enough for that crap, so she calls me. I patiently explain that we don't, nor have we ever had gas lines to the building. She asks how I know that, and I share that I did the final walk of the new empty building with the contractor 10 years prior at the end, of which he handed me a giant roll of blueprints and specs to strap to the wall in case of utilities work needing to be done, or for remodel planning purposes. I also explain the smell is curing wax and is clearing up with every passing second the HVACs are cycling air. She gives me the most infuriating bless your heart look and says she's going to call the fire department for my own good. So she does, and reports a gas leak to get them to come out there. She winked at me as she did it. I didn't even have words. So when she dipped 15 seconds later and left me to deal with 2 fire trucks and 4 irate, hazmat-suited firemen, I didn't think to say, "Hey, idiot, you need to be responsible for this massive waste of taxpayer dollars and stick around." Story 73 wasn't retail, but as a frequent flyer, would occasionally encounter entitled idiot who were disrespectful to the airline crew. One was a self-entitled DR sitting next to me in business class on a Qantas long haul who continually chewed out a particular crew member called Andrew. Doctor didn't know that he was surrounded by about 10 journalists on their way to attend a conference. We all just sat back, kept quiet, and listened to the doctor diatribe for hours until we landed. Upon landing, as we were waiting to exit the plane, Doctor says to the steward, "I want your name so I can complain to your superiors about your attitude and service. You're going to lose your job." Well, we were stunned, so I addressed Andrew very loudly so DDAR could hear. "Mate, I work for XX, a prestige publication. Here's my business card. If your supervisor has any questions about what occurred on this flight, please have them call me and I'll set the record straight. Your service was professional and above and beyond." Then all my journo buddies handed over their business cards and said things similar. Not surprisingly, Doctor was very sheepish as he exited the plane and he got some savage looks from us. I would have lost my crap ages ago, but the steward was amazing. Kicker was that about 3 weeks later, I hopped on another long haul from Frankfurt, and guess who greeted me into business class? Andrew. We laughed about the DR incident, and he said he was very thankful to have all our contacts, even though the damn doctor didn't take his complaint any further. Story 74. There was this customer who was looking for a certain size pillow cover that we don't carry. She was trying to have her child translate for her, but I understood her just fine without the child. I was trying to tell her that we didn't have it. I showed her the selection we had, but I made sure to let her know that none of them was what she needed. She kept talking to me as if I didn't understand her, asking me for the same thing. She repeated herself 3 times, to which I told her the exact same thing each time. Anyway, after the 3rd time, she asked me to go get someone who speaks Spanish to help her. I told her that anyone else who talked to her would either say the same thing or ask me where it is. Then I'd tell them the same exact thing I just told her. I was a little forceful, final at this point, and she just huffed and walked off. There was a customer behind me that was like, "I'm sorry you had to deal with that. I don't see how you didn't go off on her." I gave her a smile and replied, "I'm used to it." I wished her a good day and went back to my department. It was so hard for me to keep it together, but I did. Story 75. Work in an Asian restaurant and we have a small few vegan options. What always kills me is that when taking their order, before even saying what they want, they'll make sure that you know they're vegan. We do a vegan curry, and the amount of people that'll ask for egg noodles or egg fried rice, and then get offended when we say that we can't serve that with a vegan dish. Even when you repeat the word egg, they still don't care. And when we put the order into the kitchen, the chefs will always tell whatever manager is working that we can't be trusted to take orders, so the manager will double-check with the customer. It's even worse when they complain they can't eat any of the desserts because they have butter in them. But for some reason, eggs are okay. Story 76. Old lady poked a hole in the last 6 or 7 green peppers we had left. They were already on sale, but she knew we sold damaged past its prime produce for a big discount. I just threw them away and said we can't sell them. It made me so mad. She was a pain in my ass at that store all the time. Story 77. I was working at a higher-end clothing store while going to college. I was a little raw emotionally that day because I had broken up with my fiancée the day before. We also had a new assistant manager who was also raw from losing her newborn to SIDS. A woman came in demanding that I help her immediately instead of finishing ringing up the customer in front of me. I held up my index finger and said, "I will be with you in just a minute." She stomped over to my assistant manager and started yelling at her, telling her to fire me because I pointed at her and was being rude. I walked over to them when I was done at the register, and the woman started screaming in my face. I burst into tears, and my manager saw me and sent me into the back room to take a minute to collect myself. About 30 seconds later, my assistant manager joins me, crying, and we both just sit there waiting for the manager to finish talking. The manager walked in, took a deep breath, and said, "You guys okay? This type of thing doesn't usually bother you." Then we both start talking and crying. The manager was great and told us to take a few minutes. I loved working there and would have stayed if I had made enough money to find my own place. Story 78. Years ago, working in a computer store, a customer came in with a legitimate issue, but was convinced that he needed to yell at someone to get what he wanted. So I let him explain his problem. He wasn't completely clear, so I asked him some questions. A couple questions, and he yelled at me to just help him. I matched him exactly, and at the same volume I said, "I am trying to help you, sir," and basically stared him down. It's one of those situations in retail where I shook the customer out of his stupor, and he realized that I was actually on his side. All of a sudden, he and his wife became the nicest customers out there, and by the end we were laughing and joking. After they left, one of the young guys in the department looked at me in the back room and asked, "How did you do that?" Story 79. Customers would come into Barnes and Nobles with books they'd bought from book clubs. These books are shaped differently to designate them as book club books, and would tell us they'd lost their receipt and wanted to return the book to us. We'd tell them that they were holding a book club book, one that we didn't sell, and they would throw tantrums. Story 80. This literally happened like a month ago. I worked at a pretty large department store in the USA holiday season. Is pretty gruesome. Items don't last, and people can order online and pick up in the store, but only have 3 days to come pick up, or else the item is refunded and put back on the floor. Lady comes the night before Christmas Eve and offers me her order number from a month ago. I explained she was well past the pickup window and that the item was refunded. She starts cursing me out and calling me ridiculous, lazy, and incompetent. I was working a double that day. I truly was fed the duck up. I very loudly explained that there could not possibly be a more incompetent and idiotic human being than the person who tries to pick up an item 3 weeks after it was due to be picked up, demands an item that isn't there as if we can magically make one appear, and then ridicules the worker helping her because she was too damn lazy to come to the store and pick up a simple doll. That was what she ordered, a doll. The lady was red and embarrassed. No one dared to talk to me. I quit that day. Story 81. Worked at a cake shop. We sold cakes and similar confectionaries. Customer walked in, looked at what we had for a while, comes up to the counter and says, "You guys should sell samosas too, and like chicken." Story 82. I was working behind a checkout counter, minding my own business, and an elderly lady put her purse on the counter right in front of me, opened it, and started chattering cheerfully about her credit card and how something was messed up. There was plenty of space around. Literally, no one was at the counter, and she could have stood anywhere. I thought she wanted my help, so I leaned forward to look at the card in her wallet. She then grabbed her purse, slammed it shut, and walked away. She went to a manager and said she needed to go into a changing room to look for something in her purse because there were too many people spying on her out in the open. Later, she came up to the counter and started speaking to my coworker while I was at the next register. She said loudly and pointedly, "It's very difficult to get anything done when people are staring at you like you're retarded." Those were her words. She deliberately avoiding looking at me while making remarks clearly intended for me to overhear, which is one of the most annoying things in the world. I now realize that she probably had some form of dementia. Story 83. A woman stomped into the office supply store I worked in and demanded to use the restroom. I pointed her toward it and rang up a couple other customers. A few minutes later, she stomped back to the counter. There was a huge knot of toilet paper protruding from the back of her pants waistband. It looked like some fake flower crafting project gone horribly wrong. I had my mouth open to inform her when I hate this store. Normally, a tirade like this would have pissed me off, but I so enjoyed the thought of her walking around with a giant flower on her ass. It was all I could do not to laugh. So if losing my basic courtesy counts as losing my crap, that's my story. None of my coworkers told her either. Story 84. This actually happens often, about once every month or so. Without giving too much info about my job, I confirm my planned 2-hour arrival window at a customer's house, to which I'm there at the start of 95% of the time. With them the previous night or morning of, and send them a text with a pretty exact ETA when I'm leaving my previous customer's house. They confirm it. I get there. They're not there. I call them. They say, "I'll be there in half an hour. I'll see you soon." I'm not a realtor, and a lot of my appointments take 15 minutes or less. So not only am I losing money, being on time is a point of pride for me, so I'm also upset that now I'm late for the rest of my appointments that day because dingus can't read a clock. I do have the authority to leave a note saying to reschedule after 15 minutes of standing at their door, but usually they arrive at the 14-minute mark. Never ceases to infuriate and amaze me how adults can't manage their time. Story 85. A few weeks before Christmas, someone asked to return something. We have a relatively generous open box returns policy within 2 weeks, providing there's a receipt. She didn't have the receipt. I tried searching our system using her email, her cards that she may have paid with, and couldn't find the receipt. There was no sticker on the back of the product suggesting it came from us. So you're not going to refund this faulty case? It's not that I won't. I need a receipt to return it. You aren't able to provide me with a receipt. Yes, but I bought it here. At the same time as this, which I have a receipt for. Are you telling me you're refusing me? If you're able to provide me with a receipt, I'd be happy to, but I cannot prove that the product came from us, so I have no obligation to do so. But the Sales of Goods Act, you have to. Upon being presented with a receipt or proof of purchase, you have no case under the Sales of Goods Act. You've just lost a sale. Okay, well, enjoy your afternoon. Story 86. I was the car audio manager at a now-defunct electronics retailer that did custom car audio. I had a kid come in and ask me to look at his minivan because his subwoofer wasn't giving him the output he expected. I had him pull the van into the install bay, then directed him back to the sales floor. When my installer and I looked in the back at the subwoofer, we almost lost our minds. The kid had a super cheap subwoofer from the national electronics chain. He had built his own enclosure out of one of 3 inches plywood. It was two triangles with three flat sides held together with clear packing tape. Under packing tape was the cardboard from Mountain Dew boxes. He had extended the speaker wire from a rear speaker to the subwoofer and was running it off the factory radio. He had also tried porting the enclosure by cutting a 3-inch hole in the side of his custom enclosure. It was a challenge not to laugh in the kid's face, but I somehow managed not to. Story 87. This is my mom's story that happened many years ago, but we still laugh about it to this day. My mom works at a grocery store. For context, a middle-aged woman comes in, asks my mom for powdered water. Obviously, my mom is confused. Should she laugh? Is this lady serious? So she asks her to repeat the question. Now, the woman is a bit annoyed that my mom didn't understand her extremely clear request. Powdered water, she repeats, becoming all the more frustrated at my mom's bewilderment. Powdered monkey water. I mean, naturally. Monkey water, duh. My mom says she's sorry, but she doesn't think that the store carries this product. Well, the woman is royally pissed now, and she insists that she bought it at this grocery store. It's a simple request. Is my mom stupid? My mom proceeds to go get the grocery manager so that she can pawn off this woman onto him instead, then laughs her head off in the back room. The woman was asking for powdered coconut water, of course. Story 88. Customer came in swearing, "We order this liquor for her every year. We have never carried this liquor, can't even order it if we wanted to." I explain this to her. She keeps repeating up and down that we always do this for her and says, "The girl always does it for me. I'm the only female and I tell her so." Oh, must have been the guy. He doesn't order, only I do. Finally, so she will stop screaming about us always ordering for the 12th time. I showed her the computer, and it shut her up and she left. 3 days later, she comes back and corners one of my vendors to ask if he will order this item since I don't want to do it for her. I lost it. Told her I'd shown her last time we have never carried it and can't order it on the computer, so what the duck does she want me to do about it? Luckily, she never reported me. Hasn't come back since. Story 89. Had an old lady come in looking for only one handle that a coworker had put aside for her in the morning. It was 5 p.m. He had gone home and didn't tell anyone where it was. So I go looking for it because I'm the guy the front desk always calls. She starts say about how this is inadequate service she's receiving and belittling. I'm looking for it frantically but can't find it, and my mind is pulling every stop to control my anger and not hit or yell at her. Eventually, a guy in that department comes in and tags me out. I was just in tears because of her. Damn that old hag. Story 90. Had a customer complain about a new team member in a department. I apologized and explained that they were new and learning, and that people make mistakes, and for which we are sorry. The reply was, "Well, that's not my problem, I'm a customer." Anyway, after a bit more whinging, she says, "My son's autistic," and I came out with, "Well, that's not my problem." Story 91. After I informed a guy, we didn't take his type of card and let him try it. Several times, he threw it at me, then demanded I hand it back. When I informed him I couldn't do that due to store policy and called a manager, he tried to come behind the counter. Had to inform him it was company policy not to let customers behind the counter. As the manager arrived, he called me every name in the book. Manager handed him his card and asked him to leave. He started to pull cash out, and the manager asked him to leave again. As he left, he started shouting about how they shouldn't hire retards. My manager has Tourette's and when stressed, slaps herself in the chest. He started screaming that she was a retard when he saw her slapping herself. It took every ounce of self-control not to lose my crap on him. Story 92. I'm hard of hearing. Virtually no hearing in my right ear after the flu took it. I wear a hearing aid on that side, and after a customer noticed my hearing aid, she said, "I didn't realize they hire deaf people here, and I don't want little Miss Deaf and Dumb serving me. Not cool, lady." Story 93. I haven't been a full-time cashier for well over a year at this point, but I cover a lot when we are short-staffed or to cover breaks. No problem. One night, this lady comes up to my line, and she's a regular problem customer. I start scanning things, and she is freaking out because I forgot her 1 bar of cheese that she never grabbed from the shelf. Then I had to stop to manually input the code and price for a cheese, and she panics that I'm doing something wrong as I'm finishing scanning. She starts to bag her own groceries. She has a reusable bag in her shopping cart that never left the cart. She loaded everything into it, proceeded to try and lift it before exclaiming, "You made it too heavy," despite the fact that I never once touched this shopping bag.